When you put a woman on a pedestal, he went on, you're always gazing up at her, and no one respects someone who's stuck looking up all the time. Hey, I'm Neville. Honestly, I never saw myself as the kind of guy who'd fall into this trap, blowing all his money just to keep his girlfriend satisfied. But here I am, checking my account balance again after yet another pricey weekend with Eira. It all started 3 months ago at O'Malley's, this bar downtown. She was there with one of her coworkers, celebrating a promotion. The way she flipped her hair back when she laughed, and how confident she looked in that simple black dress. Man, I couldn't take my eyes off her. I had to work up the nerve, and after 2 beers, I finally sent her a drink. When she accepted, her friends giggled and whispered to each other. Turns out they were taking bets on how much cash I'd dropped that night. That should have been the first red flag. But when Eira flashes that smile, everything else just fades to black. She works in HR at some corporate office in the city, not exactly a big deal. But the way she acts, you'd think she was running the entire company. Last week, I picked her up for dinner at Applebee's. And boy, was that a mistake. Really, Neville? I got dressed up for this? She complained, looking like I just dragged her through the mud. She had on a brand new top, but somehow, I was the one feeling cheap. So, guess where we ended up instead? Yep, an overpriced steakhouse. There went my car payment. This is the same pattern every time. Like that Coach purse I bought her last month. Sure, she was happy for a few minutes, but then she saw her friend Kelly's newer Michael Kors bag, and suddenly my gift wasn't enough. That's sweet, Neville, but maybe next time. Ask me what I want first, she had said, her words cutting deeper than she probably realized. My buddy Samuel keeps telling me I'm getting played. Says she's a 6 acting like a 10. He said it over beers just the other night. But honestly, he doesn't get it. Eira's beautiful, but not in some fake Instagram model way. She's the real deal. Like that girl next door who somehow transforms into a total knockout. Yeah, she can be demanding. Like when she made me return that silver necklace because it might turn her skin green. That stung. But when she's happy, man, it's like everything's perfect. The worst part is, I know I'm not the only guy trying to get her attention. There's this guy at her office, Ben, drives a brand new Mustang and always seems to need help from HR for one thing or another. Every time she brings him up, my gut twists. Just last week, she casually mentioned how Ben treats his clients to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Guess where we're headed this weekend? Yep, there goes my savings. Again. I know what people whisper behind my back at work, that I'm a pushover, that I expect too much. But here's the thing, when you're the prettiest girl in most rooms, you learn real quick that you can get whatever you want. Call it confidence, call it manipulation, whatever. I know what I bring to the table. I'm Eira, and I've always known that being attractive opens doors. In high school, guys fought over who'd pay for my lunch. In college, I never spent a dime at the bar. Now, at 26, stuck in a boring HR job, I've got this game down to a science. Sure, I'm not a model or a movie star, but in this town, I'm as good as it gets. Take Neville, for example. Sweet guy, really. Puts in a lot of effort. Maybe a little too much. We met at O'Malley's when he nervously sent over a girly cocktail. My friends thought it was adorable how nervous he looked. Kelly was convinced I could do better. But there's potential with Neville. He's got a decent job, his own place, and he's trainable. But sometimes he just doesn't get it. Like last week, he actually thought Applebee's was date night worthy. I spent an hour on my makeup and hair, and he pulls into Applebee's? I had to shut that down fast. We ended up at Morton's instead. Yeah, he looked like he was gonna faint when the check came, but that's his problem, not mine. The thing with guys like Neville is, they need to be taught how to treat a girl properly. That Coach bag he bought me? Cute gesture, but Kelly's boyfriend just got her a Michael Kors, and she wouldn't stop talking about it at lunch. So yeah, maybe I dropped a few hints to Neville. Or more than a few. But honestly, if he's gonna spend his money, shouldn't he at least buy me something I really want? There's this guy at work, Ben, who just gets it. He's always talking about his fancy dinners with clients, showing off his Mustang. Not that I'm interested or anything, but it's good for Neville to know that other guys would treat me better. Keeps him on his toes. My mom always said competition is healthy for relationships. Yesterday, Neville gave me this cheap-looking silver necklace. Seriously? I'm not a teenager anymore. I had to make him return it, telling him it would probably turn my skin green. The look on his face made me feel a little bad. But come on, I've got standards to maintain. I didn't write the rules. Pretty girls get treated well. That's just how it goes. It's not like I'm asking for diamonds or designer clothes all the time. Just something better than bargain bin jewelry. The funny thing is, Neville actually believes I'm out of his league. And you know what? Maybe I am. But he tries so hard to make me happy. It's almost cute. Like a puppy bringing you a toy, hoping you'll be proud. Sometimes I do feel a little guilty about how much he spends on me. But then I think about how Kelly's boyfriend just took her to Vegas for the weekend, and the guilt just evaporates. Is it wrong to want nice things? To expect a guy to take me to good restaurants and buy me pretty things? My mom always told me to know my worth, and I do. I'm not getting any younger, and looking this good takes effort. Hours at the gym, staying on top of the latest trends, even if it's just mall brands. It's a lot of work, and I expect to be appreciated for it. Sure, sometimes, when Neville's going overboard trying to make me happy, there's a little voice inside telling me I'm being too hard on him. But then I catch a glimpse of myself in the mirror and realize, guys like Neville are lucky to be with someone like me. And if he can't keep up, well, there's always Ben from accounting. After another exhausting weekend with Eira, I decided to ask my mom for advice. That was a big mistake. She's been single since Dad walked out when I was 12, and all her dating advice comes from the cheesy romance novels she's addicted to. Honey, she said, pouring her third glass of wine, women need to feel special. Big gestures show them how much you care. Then, she spent a solid hour telling me about her latest Tinder disaster, complaining about how the guy didn't know how to properly woo her. According to Mom, I needed to step up my game if I really wanted to keep Eira around. Her advice? Start leaving romantic notes on Eira's car, send her flowers at work every week, and plan elaborate, multi-stop dates. She kept insisting that women want a man who shows he's willing to put in the effort. But she completely missed the point. I was already bending over backward to make Eira happy. And yet, like a fool, I listened to her. First, I left a love note on Eira's windshield. She called it creepy and griped about how the morning dew soaked the paper, ruining her freshly washed car. The weekly flower deliveries to her office? Oh, those just gave her coworkers more fuel to gossip about how desperate I was. Then, I planned this fancy 3-part dinner date, different restaurants for each course. All night, she was glued to her phone, texting, and kept asking why we couldn't just go to one expensive place instead of bouncing around. Mom's grand finale advice? If Eira wasn't appreciating all my efforts, maybe I needed to show I was serious by making a bigger commitment. And that's when the idea of proposing started swirling in my head. Never mind the fact that Eira criticizes just about everything I do or that my credit cards are maxed out from trying to keep up with her demands. Mom somehow convinced me that popping the question would fix it all. So I drained my savings and bought a 1-carat diamond ring. Not the biggest, but it cost me 3 months' salary. When I showed it to Mom, she actually teared up, saying it reminded her of the ring Dad gave her. The same one she had to pawn after the divorce. She even helped me plan the proposal. At Wilson Park, where Eira and I first walked together after that night at O'Malley's. The ring is sitting in my drawer right now, and tomorrow is supposed to be the big day. Mom's already planning the wedding in her head, talking about centerpieces and venues. She doesn't see the way Eira rolls her eyes at my gestures or how she's constantly comparing me to other guys. But Mom says that's just how women test men, to see if they'll fight for the relationship. Trust me, she said, patting my hand. Every woman dreams of a romantic proposal. This will show her you're ready to give her the life she deserves. But something in my gut is telling me this is a terrible idea. Still, what do I know? Mom's been through the dating world longer than I have, so she must know something, right? I should have realized something was up when Neville started acting all strange this week. First, those embarrassing flowers at the office. Like I really needed Carol from accounting making comments about my devoted boyfriend. And then that absurd 3-restaurant date that made me miss half of girls' night. But this? This is a whole new level of cringe. So, there I was, just finishing my Saturday morning yoga class, when Neville suggests we go for a walk in Wilson Park. Already annoying, since I had plans to go shopping with Kelly, but he was being so insistent, all nervous and fidgety. I should have spotted the red flags. He had on that one decent button-down shirt he owns, and his mom's car was parked nearby, like I wouldn't notice her awkwardly trying to hide behind a tree, phone out, recording. But nothing could have prepared me for what came next. Right by that tacky fountain where we walked on our first date, Neville starts rambling about love, fate, and destiny. And then, oh my God, he actually gets down on one knee, in public, with people watching. He pulls out this tiny blue box, revealing the smallest diamond I've ever laid eyes on. I couldn't even let him finish. Are you serious right now? I remember blurting out. The look on his face was like I'd kicked a puppy. Neville, that ring can't be more than a carat. My cousin's fiancé just proposed with a 3-carat princess cut, at sunset, on a private beach in Hawaii. His mom was still recording everything from behind her tree, probably crying into her discount cardigan. The whole scene was pathetic. Neville's there on his knee, grass stains on his only good pants, holding up this sad excuse for a ring, expecting me to be moved. I can't believe you thought this was okay, I told him. A proposal? In a park? Not even a nice restaurant or a rooftop bar. And that ring. God, Neville, did you even try? He started stammering about love and how he just wanted to make things right. But I cut him off. When I get engaged, I expect at least a 3-carat ring. Minimum. And a real proposal, sunset, professional photographer, beach or mountain backdrop, champagne, the works. Not this. Whatever this is. With your mom hiding in the bushes. And then, the best part. His mom came out from behind the tree trying to defend him. She started going on about how her son was a good man who loved me for who I was. Please, like that's going to pay for the lifestyle I deserve. I told Neville straight up, this is embarrassing. For both of us. You obviously can't give me what I need, and honestly, I'm done trying to turn you into someone who can. Do you know Ben from my office just bought his girlfriend a Cartier bracelet just because, and here you are, thinking this tiny ring and cheap proposal are enough. The look on his face almost made me feel bad. Almost. But come on, I have standards. You can't expect a woman like me to settle for some basic proposal in a public park with a ring that looks like it came from a mall. His mom was still there, actually crying now, telling me I didn't deserve her son. Whatever. She's probably the one who put this ridiculous idea in his head in the first place. Some people just don't get it. In the real world, love doesn't buy designer bags or luxury vacations. So I left them both standing there by that ugly fountain, Neville still on one knee, his mom trying to console him like he was a little kid. My phone was already blowing up with texts from Kelly about the big sale at Nordstrom. That was a much better use of my Saturday than watching Neville try to play Prince Charming on a tight budget. Life has a way of putting things into perspective, though. 2 weeks after Eira publicly humiliated me, my grandfather passed away. As I stood there at the funeral, listening to my dad give the eulogy, all the drama with Eira suddenly felt so small. After the service, Dad asked me to stay back. We sat together in Grandpa's study, surrounded by shelves of old books and the familiar scent of his pipe tobacco still lingering in the air. That's when Dad told me about the inheritance, $500,000 just like that. I was stunned, feeling a strange mix of grief and disbelief. Your grandpa worked 40 years at the factory, Dad said, pouring us both a glass of whiskey. He lived in the same house, drove the same old car, and knew the value of money because he understood the value of hard work. He looked at me, his expression stern. That's something you need to learn, son. I hadn't mentioned Eira yet, but Dad had already put 2 and 2 together. He'd seen my growing pile of credit card bills when he helped me with my taxes last week. That girl's been bleeding you dry, he said, not sugarcoating anything. And I bet no matter what you do, it's never enough. The whiskey burned as it went down, but not as much as his words. He leaned back in his chair, looking so much like Grandpa in that moment. Let me tell you something about women and money, he said. The ones worth keeping don't need designer labels to feel valuable. Your mother was always chasing more money, more stuff. Look how that turned out. I tried to defend Eira, but Dad cut me off. She's with you for what you can give her, he said. And now, with this inheritance, just wait. She'll come sniffing around. He wasn't exaggerating either. Apparently, Mom had already posted about my windfall on Facebook. Dad told me about his own dating experiences after the divorce, how he'd learned to tell the difference between women who wanted him for who he was and those who only wanted what he could provide. The trick, he said, is to act broke, be indifferent. The ones who stick around after that, those are the real ones. Then, Dad hit me with something Grandpa used to say. When you put a woman on a pedestal, you're always looking up at her. And no one respects a man who's always looking up. He poured us another shot. Your grandpa knew that. Why do you think your grandma stayed with him for 50 years? He respected himself first. Just then, my phone buzzed. Eira. For the third time that day. Dad just raised an eyebrow. You've got choices now, son. Real choices. This inheritance isn't just money. It's freedom. Freedom to start fresh. Invest in yourself instead of catering to someone else's demands. But the moment people know you've got it. He didn't need to finish the sentence. The phone buzzed again, this time with a text. Neville, baby, we need to talk. I've been doing a lot of thinking. Dad picked up Grandpa's old pipe, running his fingers over the worn wood. You know what real love looks like? He asked. It's Grandpa working overtime so Grandma could stay home with the kids. It's her cooking his favorite meal when money was tight. It's not about what you can buy for someone. It's about who stays when you can't buy them anything. The whiskey was starting to hit, but so was the truth. All those nights working extra hours just to afford things for Eira, maxing out my credit cards for her approval. Grandpa would have called me a fool. So what do I do now? I asked, feeling the weight of it all. Dad gave me a tired but wise smile. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we'll talk about investing that money. And don't be surprised when Katie comes knocking. Now that you're not the cheapskate she left 2 weeks ago. My phone buzzed again, but this time, I turned it off. Meanwhile, Eira was having a different kind of realization. She had been telling anyone who'd listen how she dodged a bullet with my cheap proposal. But then Carol from work dropped the bomb. Did you see his mom's Facebook post? She asked. His grandpa left him $500,000. I nearly choked on my salad. $500,000. Neville? The same Neville who once bought me a Coach bag from the flea market? Okay, maybe it wasn't fake, but I told everyone it was because it was last season's style. I've been trying to reach him for 3 days now, calls, texts. I even drove by his apartment twice. His car was there, but he wouldn't answer the door. And then his mom blocked me on Facebook after I messaged her, asking if she could help mend things between us. Like she wasn't the one who pushed him into that awful proposal. Finally, today, Neville agreed to meet. I spent hours getting ready, slipping into the blue dress he always liked, the one that makes me look irresistible. I rehearsed my lines in the car. I've been doing some soul searching. I've realized what really matters. Money isn't everything. The moment he opened the door, though, I knew something was off. He looked different, calmer, more confident. He was wearing a shirt I hadn't picked out for him. Can we talk? I asked, giving him my best vulnerable look, the one that always worked before. He let me in, but he didn't offer me a drink, didn't compliment my dress. He just sat there, waiting. I've been thinking, I began, carefully settling onto the couch. Maybe I was too harsh. We had something special and I miss you. He just watched me, his face unreadable. The proposal, I continued. It caught me off guard. Sometimes I say things I don't mean when I'm surprised. Still nothing. Fine. Time to get to the point. Look, Neville, people make mistakes. I made a mistake. But we can start fresh. Maybe take that trip we always talked about. Bali is amazing this time of year. I let that hang in the air, hoping he'd catch the hint about his inheritance. Finally, he spoke. How much does Bali cost, Eira? Oh, I haven't really... I started, but he cut me off. Because I checked, he said. The kind of resort you'd want? About 15 grand for 2 weeks. That's what this is about, isn't it? What? No. How could you think? I stammered. $500,000. His voice was eerily calm, which made it even more unsettling. That's why you're here, he said, staring straight through me. Not because you miss me. Not because you had some epiphany. You're here because my grandfather passed away and left me money. That's not fair. I shot back, but even I didn't sound convinced. You know what's not fair? Neville stood up, and his words hit like a punch. Making someone feel like they're never enough. Taking and taking until their credit cards are maxed out. Turning down their proposal in public because it wasn't flashy enough for Instagram. I scrambled, trying to salvage things. Baby, I was wrong. Wrong about what? He cut me off, his voice colder now. Wrong about rejecting me, or wrong about how much money I had? What's the plan, Eira? Start fresh with my inheritance? Get that 3-carat ring you wanted? Go on all those luxury vacations? He actually laughed then, and it was harsh. The sad part is, 2 weeks ago, I would have done exactly that. What changed? I found myself asking, even though I knew the answer. I did. And my bank account. He shook his head, like he was seeing the truth for the first time. Suddenly, it's crystal clear. I see exactly what this was. What you are. His words cut deep, sharper than I expected. You don't mean that, I whispered, trying to remind him of what we used to have. Remember how good we were together? Remember. I remember working myself into the ground, taking overtime shifts to buy you things you didn't even appreciate for more than a day. I remember skipping lunch so I could afford the dinners you insisted on. I remember feeling worthless, no matter how hard I tried, because nothing was ever good enough. Neville, please, I said, my voice sounding more desperate now, but he was done. He walked over to the door, opening it wide. You know what my grandfather left me besides money? Self-respect. Something you'll never find at Nordstrom. I made one last attempt. You'll regret this, I said, my voice shaking with frustration. No one will love you like I. Love me? He gave a bitter chuckle. You don't even like me, Eira. You just liked what I could give you. And now that I can give you more, you came running back. It's actually kind of sad. I couldn't respond. I was frozen. As I walked to my car, I heard him call out one last thing. Oh, and Eira? That Coach bag? It was real. I've got the receipts. You just couldn't stand that someone might think you'd carry something that wasn't brand new. Couldn't believe it. The door shut behind him before I could say anything. Sitting in my car, I checked my phone out of habit, hoping for something to distract me. Ben from accounting had already moved on, dating someone new. My Bumble matches were all duds. And Neville? Neville was sitting on $500,000, finally seeing me for who I really was. Life really can be unfair. Thanks for watching. What would you do if you caught your spouse cheating? Share your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe for more real-life stories of betrayal and revenge.